I don't talk about my brother much, but I don't think I give him the credit he deserves because he got me out of so many jams.
That I made a vow, I'm giving you the best that I've got, baby. Yes, I tell you now that I made a vow, I'm giving
All right,
you
welcome to the Live Your
best
Dreams
that I've got.
podcast, where success leaves clues and someone has your answer. As always, joined by my lovely co-host, the lovely Miss Tia Mckisset.
Hello.
All right, so today we're talking about relationships. And first and foremost, I just wanted to give a shout out to my friend who turned me on to the roadcaster, Mike Humes, Mailman the Millionaire from We Won't Quit podcast. Make sure you check that out. But got my new hookup, so this should keep our sound quality consistent. So definitely trying to grow and get professional with that. Also, one to thank my wife when you talk about relationships. She kind of twisted my arm and said, "Hey, you need to do this." So we went to visit some family, and the Sims have a huge family. And when we grew up, we had a real tight knit family. So Tia said, "Hey, let's go see." I went to see my aunt on her birthday. Some of my cousins was over there. I haven't seen in a while, so it felt good. Felt good. I don't know what I'm hiding or something. Working so hard, but you can work hard. You can have goals. You can have all that. But without relationships, I mean, life is really mean. What are we working for if you're not going to spend time and kind of nourish those relationships? What do you think about that, Tia?
I think relationships are very, very important. It feels good to be able to have a good husband, someone to come home to, spend time with, travel, have children, and that's what life is all about. It's not all about, money and different things like that, but just having someone to spend your life with.
Yeah, and one thing that I like when you talk about relationships, there's all types of relationships, You have family relationships, you have, spouse relationships, you have friends, you have different things. And I guess with one of the things when you and I was coming up, and it felt good, we went to our old neighborhood where you and I first had our apartment, District Heights. And to see where we came from and now where we are now is just a really good feeling. But talking about relationships and I guess growing with relationships, does it seem, I guess, kind of unreal that we knew each other when we were so young and now we're getting older and now we're different people? So when you talk about relationships and you become different, what's your thoughts about that? Now that we're different people, what do you think about that?
Well, now that we are different, we get along a lot better. We understanding of each other, more passionate.
Yeah, and I think the relationship has grown stronger because, again, we know each other
Because
a
we
little bit
older.
better. Yeah, we older, right? Absolutely. So when you think about relationships or committed relationships, what do you think the breakdown is? Because you I guess you see some relationships, but sometimes you don't see relationships, and you see relationships go sideways, and sometimes things go wrong. What do you think is the reason relationships sometimes don't make it or go wrong?
But the most important thing is put God first. Communication is very, very important. And don't let other people come into your relationship. Friends, sometimes even family, to tear that down. You have to be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good part when you say about that, because I think you and myself, just taking us for an example, not saying we got it all figured out, but I think we know a little something. But I think when you and I, did we make a decision, like you don't really go on girls' trips, I don't really go on guys' trips. Do you think we made a decision not to do that, or we just don't do it? Or what do you think what's that about?
I don't know. When we got married, we were so committed to each other. We best friends. So we became best friends. So we kind of do things together. And, either with, ourselves or our children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the key. I think part of it is you got to be with someone who's your
Equally
friend.
yoked.
Yeah, you got to be with somebody who's your friend. And I think you and I really enjoy spending time together also. I think that's the key. So when we go out or we, go to dinner, it's like we want to be around each other. And I think that's the key. You have to have someone that's your friend.
Right. And also in relationships, you got to spice it up.
Mm-hmm.
Keep yourself up. Make sure that you don't take the person for granted. Tell them you love them on a daily basis, and
Yeah.
show them that you love them.
Yeah, Tom used to say that. Say, you could tell me, but show me, right?
Right.
And your grandma used to say that. Grandma Lena used to say, "Hey,
Right.
give me my flowers while I live,"
Right.
and she would tell you that.
Right.
And I think that's the key too. You got to show somebody because you could tell them, but showing them is something totally different. So
And
that's
help each other. Make sure you help each other.
what do you mean by
You
that?
know, financially. Help each other. Help each other emotionally when you're going through things, because you're going to have trials and tribulations in your relationship.
Hmm. So when you say help each other, and the trials and tribulations do come, and I know we had our share, but when you say help, what do you mean by that?
Where that person is weak, you help them become strong.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the key. And I think throughout the years, I think that's where you and I kind of, I think the first thing you said, you got to be friends,
Right.
and secondly, you said, you have to be equally yoked, and then you mentioned, help. And I think that's the key too, because sometimes you don't look like that. Say, I don't need help. I got it all
we
figured
all
out.
struggle with something.
Right. Right. And I think also just listening to a person,
Right.
because sometimes somebody just wants somebody to listen to them. And I know sometimes you'll tell me something and I'll just try to figure it out for you. Like, no, just do this. And you'll say, no, just listen. Right. But sometimes that's hard to do because especially for men, sometimes we just want to figure it out and fix it. But sometimes you just got to sit there and listen. And that's hard to do. And that's one of the things that I kind of learned how to just sit back and listen.
And so you got to encourage your spouse too. You may not want to do something, and I may say, no, let's do it. Let's go out or let's do something. You may not feel it, but you got to push each other.
Yeah, and I think that's the key too, because a lot of times because me, I could just stay in the house and read a book or something, and I'm just as happy as can be. And you'll be like, no, let's do this, let's go out. And when you do that, when I get there, I'm like, I'm glad I did come out. So, and I think, and it's just like even visiting my family.
Right.
I think once I went, I was like, oh man, thank you, because I really needed that.
Just like we went to a spa the other day, and he didn't want to go, and I encouraged you. I said, come on, let's go, and you had a good time.
Yeah, I relaxed. I unplugged. I kept my phone, my watch, everything in the locker, and I didn't have it, and it felt good not having it, because if I had it, somebody will call me, or I'll get busy. But it felt good not being busy and just relaxing and just, I guess, unwinding. You know what I mean? Unplugging is probably the best word to do that, because sometimes you don't unplug and you don't realize it. You don't realize how connected you are until you do that. So thank you for that, because sometimes it's not easy to do, and I think that's one of the things you do really well. Kind of pushing me to do things that I may not want to do. So good stuff. So now let's talk about with relationships. I know a lot of times you say, do you think if you didn't go out, the relationship still would be good?
You have to go out. I think it's important.
Why
to
is
like
that?
spend time, because just being at home is not the same as going out. I mean, we can have fun, at home too, but going out just makes it even better.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, like, I guess separately, we don't go out much.
Right.
Do you miss that? Because I know a lot of times you see a lot of people taking girls' trips or whatever it may be. Do you ever wish you did girls' trips when we were coming up?
Well, I never really done them because we got married so early,
So you don't miss nothing you didn't know.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. And same here, because sometimes you see guys say we going here, and I never did that. Even like I said, I guess one friend, Mike. That's the only person I probably hang out with, and we'll just go to lunch or something like that. But we don't really hang out like that. And I never miss not hanging out, because even I'm working, I'm at home, I'm with the family. That's pretty much what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think it's important to visit like extended family and
I'm gonna start doing that more, because when we first got married, we would always do that. I mean, my family would always have something. We would always have a family reunion. We would always have a weekend getaway, or we would always have some type of dinner or somebody's house. But sometimes, I don't know if it's because everybody is more busy, I don't know.
Well, COVID came to COVID,
Yeah.
and then when you lose important people in the family, it could be a breakdown.
Yeah, because I know, again, when I lost my mom, it was kind of like that breakdown. So with relationships and talking about the difference with, and again, I think the number one thing, you got to be the friend. I really agree with that. But also, let's look at a different part of relationships. Now, when you talk about the relationships with, our kids or our children, how do you think that relationship comes into play when you have children? Because a lot of people have children. How do you think that relationship comes into play?
I think that's very important too. Having a relationship with your children, talking to them, giving them advice, spending time with them too. I mean, we always include them on our family vacations and trips and stuff too. We may take a trip with them and then do one separately.
Yeah. And that's one of the things when you look at, I know with us, going on vacation was a huge part of the upbringing of the children. It's like they don't know anything different
Right.
but to keep, going.
So you always ask me questions. I just want to ask you some questions.
Okay, go for it.
Why is marriage so important to you and having a relationship?
Yeah, I guess with me, and I think you said it a couple of times, you wanted to be married. I wanted to be married. I know it's always been a dream of mine to be married, to come home every day to someone who loves me. I really embrace that tomorrow's not promised, that we don't know, and you have to enjoy your day. So I know every day I wanted to really enjoy it. So I know coming home to someone that loves me, to children who love me, was my dream. So every day, even though I do have some bad days, but coming home at the end of the day makes my day so much better.
And the people probably want to know, well, why do he want to stay married? It's so easy to get divorced, or there's a lot of temptation out there where you might see somebody else that look better or act better.
Yeah,
So,
I had to clear my throat for that. Let me get some let me get some music because that's a good question. That's a serious question too. But I think one of the things with you and I think first and foremost, social media was never a part of our marriage. So I think that helped us. I know I talked about innocence. And when I'm saying innocence, we're not perfect, but there's a level of innocence that comes to you when you're married because there's certain things you just won't do. Even if you're the worst person in the world, it's certain things you just won't do if you're married, right? Especially if you're around your spouse. Now, when you're not around, there's things you may wander off, but if you're around. So it keeps some of that there for you. So one of the things you look at, we wasn't on social media, so I didn't have that temptation. So remember, back in probably the 11th, 12th grade, when I started reading and started changing my life, I don't think I went out as much. So that temptation was gone. Probably definitely when 19, I was strictly working. I mean, I wasn't going out, maybe 20. I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing anything. So I don't know if it's survivor's remorse, but I got away from the environment that I knew wasn't good for me. And some people get away from that environment too late. Excuse me. Some people get away from that environment too late. I got away probably around 20, where I said, "Look, I'm just working. I'm committed to changing my life." So that temptation that most people have when they're 20, 21, 22, I didn't have because I turned my back on everything, put my hand on the plow, and didn't look back. Also, if you look at when social media became big, you and I wasn't into it. I didn't even know how it worked. When people were saying Facebook, I was like, what is that? Like, is that a book of faces? I mean, I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And still today, we were with, like I said, your sister yesterday. I was like, hey, you're going to have to show me because I don't know. Because we have to grow our presence to grow this show. But I think with me, I didn't have social media in my life. I don't have the past. I don't even know how to get in connection with the people I ran with. You know, Not that I didn't hide from anyone. I didn't cut anybody back. My phone number's still the same, but I don't think I had that temptation that others have. I really believe that I'm weak, so I try not to put myself in a position where that temptation is there, where I see other people may play with fire, where I try not to, and I'm really committed. Like you said, I really want to be married.
Right, and you think about consequences.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the key with it because I sometimes wonder how my children would respond if they saw me in a scandal.
Right.
I think of that.
Right.
My mother's not here. Of course, I wouldn't want to break her heart because I've done it so much. Unfortunately, I wouldn't want to break her heart, but she's not here. But I have my children. I don't think I could look at them in the face if I was in a scandal, and I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to hurt you. Because you and I are really close friends, so I wouldn't want to hurt you. So that's why, and again, I'm not perfect, and I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything like that, but that's some of the reasons I really want to be married.
And I do too.
Yeah.
So what else is important to you?
Well, I think the number one thing that's important to me, and you know me very well, is peace of mind. I really like to relax. I really like walking. If I just go walking in the park, I'm good. You know that.
Right.
I'll just go walking and I'm good. Peace of mind. I think early on we caught it where I think we had that communication where I can't be nagged every day. I can't.
Right.
Some people can live like that. I can't. I can't live with someone as soon as I walk in the door. Yeah. I couldn't do it. I don't know how people can live like that. And I'm not saying, women do that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for me.
Right.
I can't live like that. I think I'll sit down and communicate. I'll sit down and talk. I'll listen, but I can't argue every single day. I can't be this bad guy every single day. I can't do that. So I think with me, what's important to me is just being able to come to a peaceful environment. That's the most important part for me.
And also, I just want to say to the people that, as you get older, you want somebody because at some point, the older you get, you could get sick or anything, and you want somebody beside you, to help you through it, talk to you, get through like scary times, because it's not always peachy and creamy a relationship. So you want somebody there with you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we think about. And tomorrow's not promised for none of us, but that's one of the things we think about. But it's fascinating that you and I knew each other when we were so young.
Right.
And now we know each other because we're different people. And it's just fascinating to be able to grow with somebody and be a different person than you were back then. Right. You can totally change. We totally changed. And again, like I said, when we went when we got our first apartment in District Heights, when we were there, it was so weird looking at the carryout where you got that shrimp basket.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at that.
I wanted that shrimp basket bad.
But to be able to see that and to be where we are now is just an amazing feeling. I mean, an amazing feeling. I like this. Maybe you can ask me questions more often. I like that. It's a nice little dynamic.
Right.
What other questions you got?
Your family life, extended family, how's that for you?
Well, it's awesome. I don't talk about my brother much, but I don't think I give him the credit he deserves because he got me out of so many jams. And I'm the younger brother, he's the older brother. For him, it had to be hard, and I don't know what it's like to be an older brother.
Right.
But he made all the mistakes so I wouldn't. And I never forget, and I have plenty. I could talk all day about the times he got me out of jams, but it was one particular jam that I really remember that would have had severe consequences. A lot of them would have, but I remember we were at a party. It was always a party. But we were at a party, and this young lady came to dance with me. Because, I like to dance. I still like to dance. And she was fast, and she was dancing, and he pulled me and said, "No, don't do that." because again,
Don't-
he knew who she was in relationships with. And again, back in '87, people wasn't playing. I mean, it was life or death every day. And he pulled me out of a jam, which I didn't see because when you're young, all you're thinking about is one thing. And I guess with my brother, you know, looking back, I don't think I thanked him for some of the things and some of the jams he got me out of, you know? So, extended family is important. But I think as time grow, I don't know how people grow apart like that. I think what it is when, like for myself, speaking for myself alone, I work. And I think I guess peace came from working, you know? And I think that was my excuse to kind of, I would say, not push myself away from my family, but I guess people always knew, they stopped inviting me to picnics because they knew I was always busy. But I think that, extended family is important. I think when we went to visit my aunt, I think that really made my day. Even when we would go on vacation, we would always stop to go see my grandmother, my
Right.
father's mother. And that really we took her to Nag's Head one time, you
Right.
know? And even when we went to see my aunt, she mentioned we took her to Nag's Head. We would always take, we took Grandma Lita, we took
Right.
Aunt Queenie. We used to always take everybody to Nag's Head. We always did that. We would always take our aunts to vacation with us because it was something about having someone who walked the path you're walking. And that's why I always tell the children, we've been your age. I've always been fascinated to talk to my aunts or whoever it may be because I knew they would give me advice that
Right.
would be useful for me. So I really love extended family. And now that I'm getting older, I think I'm going back to it because I done worked. I mean, I done worked. I done built something now. So I can kind of not relax or take a break, but I think I've built enough now where I could kind of, enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Right.
That's
true.
All right. So it was amazing. I like answering questions because I really believe with this podcast, live your dreams. I believe that someone does have your answer, right? Success leaves clues. Someone does have your answer. And I think by, asking questions, answering the questions, we're going to help somebody. Because I think somebody's going to hear something and say, that's the answer I was looking for.
And I also think too, spending time together, like maybe going to the gym, that helps us both.
Yeah.
That helps your mental state. It helps your weight loss.
Yeah, I think because what it is, you're unplugged. I think anytime when you're unplugged and you're not thinking about anything other than the relationship, I think you said it. You said with my grandmother, my father's mother. You said when we would go over, because we would always stop when we're going to Florida or wherever we're going, we would always stop to her house, and she would always cook.
Right.
And she didn't care about the dishes. She didn't care about anything. She just wanted to spend time. And she really embodied that servant leadership, right? Where she really embodied, I'm here for you.
Right.
Right. And one thing I would say to some people, because, I didn't have a relationship with my father, but that didn't stop the relationship with my grandmother.
Right.
Because the relationship I had with my grandmother had nothing to do with my father, right?
That's true.
And even my uncles, believe it or not, my uncles, my father brothers, I have a good relationship with them. And it's not anything about what my father didn't do, but it's just a relationship with them. And I think they're happy that I turned out okay because they knew what we went through. But I think when they see me and they know that I'm okay, I think that makes them feel better. Because again, it wasn't their responsibility to do what my father should have did. But even though he didn't do his part, it didn't spoil the relationship that I had with my grandmother, nor did it spoil the relationship that I have now with my uncles. Because again, it's not about what my father didn't do. It's about the relationship I had with them,
Right.
So what other questions you have?
What do you like to do in your spare time? And
Well, with me, and I guess I don't know if I'm different, but I know there's other people like me too. If I just stay in the house and read a book, I'm in heaven, right? You know that. If I stay in the house and Tia would say, "What are you doing?" I say, "I'm balancing the books," and she'd be like, "Again?" But it's like, I don't know. It's I don't know. I mentioned survivor's remorse, but I think it's got to be some other disorder too, where you think maybe one day you'll lose everything that you have. You know,
Oh, right.
because in no way I would do whatever I have to do to not have my children experience what I experienced. I would do whatever I have to do to ensure that life is over, right?
Right.
that life is over. It's in the past, in the rearview mirror. So what I like to do is just make sure I'm good, right? Just to make sure I'm good, to always learn something. It seemed like the more I learn, the better life is. Because again, I think Jim Rohn said it best: don't ask for less problems, ask to become better to deal with the problems that you have. Because if you could become better, even though you still have problems, they're not as severe, right? Because now for you and I, it used to be, hey, if a car break down, that was like the end of the world for us. I was like, ooh, ooh. But now if a car break down, you just take it to the shop, right? So it's not that issue that it used to be, right? If something go wrong in the house, it's not like, we have our head down low. You can just get it fixed. So it's different. We have a different life, than we did.
We blessed.
You're right. So, and I'm thankful for that. So that's one of the things where I would say that's what I like to do. I just like to have peace. I like to stay in peace. I mean, stay in it. Stay there. Like that? Mm-hmm. Yep, so that's it.
Okay.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you like what you heard. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you. And yes, I do mean you. Living your dreams. Peace.